Yes, fluoridation, but is it regulation, legislation, or court?
Regulation.
I think regulation.
Yeah.
I think it's a regulation, yeah. So somebody who works for the Ministry of Health says it is required. That's it. There's no discussion about it. There can be discussion, but it's a regulatory process, okay?
But it's
So-
different because here it's a must. You cannot avoid it.
Yes, but somebody makes that must. And so probably it's a regulation, not a legislation. In other words, the Knesset probably didn't vote on Florida, on putting fluoride in water. An administrator working for the Ministry of Health said that. Okay, and it's now required. Okay? Legislative would mean that a law would be passed. Okay, and for some things you pass a law, and some things you don't. Some things you regulate it, sometimes you pass a law, and court challenge means what? Take it to court. Okay, so let's look at, for a moment, the Affordable Care Act in the United States, Obamacare. Okay, so actually, if you go back to Bill Clinton, he attempted to do some regulatory change for health care because he did not have the support of Congress. So he just said, these things are going to happen. He and his administration, they attempted some regulatory changes. Okay? It wasn't enough. So Obama takes over. Bush does nothing. Obama takes over. And he goes through a legislative process. Okay. Then the people who opposed this, what did they do? They lost the legislative process. They went to court. Okay, they tried to reverse this. Okay, so in this case, which is a simpler example, you don't have to reverse anything. You would let's say that you have a government that is not responsive. Okay, so the regulatory people aren't doing anything. The legislative people aren't doing anything. Okay, so you go to court and you say, this is a human right. We deserve this. You must give it to us. And the court turns around and says, yes, it's a human right. Everyone has to do it. So in those democracies where the courts are truly independent, they can reverse rulings of regulatory or legislative. Okay? So if you're, let's go back, and let's say that you work for a health policy organization. Okay? That's yours. You're a stakeholder representing a health policy organization. You want this mango juice to be given to everybody with high blood pressure. So you say, how should we approach this? Should we try to get it promoted through a regulatory process, a legislative process, or a court process? Each of these stakeholders is going to be thinking about how they think it should happen.
Okay.
Which is easiest?
Regulatory.
Sure.
I mean, it's like heavy-handed.
But regulatory,
Right.
government must be very strongly for it before
Yes.
regulatory can
Right.
go in.
Right. Okay. Right.
I think it's typical of public health being paternalistic.
Yeah.
Not every.
No, I didn't say every. I'm just saying it's typical of public
Okay.
health
Yeah.
being paternalistic.
Sure. Public health is paternalistic.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, I went to human rights. Yeah, it was excellent.
I always think that course should be mandatory, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
This is my
Human rights, yeah.
Incredible like I still use it all the time in my mind.
Yeah.
It is
I feel-
mandatory.
It
As
is.
an educator.
Good, it's so
We talked about it last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
such a good class.
It's required. Will be required.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of your feedback.
Amazing.
Okay. Now, let's go to the next one. These are terms that come from this book. Okay.
Questions.
Yeah.
In all the let's say I am representing one of the stakeholders, but not the government, and institutions like this, if the government do not want, how can the body of the stakeholders convince the government? Is it through the court, or is there another way?
Yeah. I think one is, something similar happened in South Africa.
Yes.
I think it's almost very similar to this case study. So there was a massive HIV/AIDS pandemic
Yes.
in South Africa, and Boehringer Ingelheim, a German company, said, here's the medication, ARVs, antiretrovirals,
Yeah.
and then the treatment action campaign, one of the stakeholders, took the government to court
Yes.
to force them. So I think they went the court challenge route.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say, here we have 6 stakeholders, okay? And you're representing this one, right?
Professionals.
Okay, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna interface with, let's say, 3 others. You're gonna talk to them, and you're gonna say, let's all get together and come in together to talk to our either legislative or administrative government person. Because the more stakeholders you can get together, the more powerful you're going to be. And let's say this is the insurance industry and they don't want to do this, you isolate them. Okay? And so this is called a lobbying process, right? And you can lobby either through the administrative process, the regulatory process, or through the legislative process. Even the courts, to some degree, can lobby. The courts are politically sensitive. They're not supposed to be, but they are. Okay? Right. All right, now let's talk about the next 3 terms. Should the new policy be distributive, regulatory, or redistributive? So let me explain what that means. Distributive means that the government adds this on. It says, fine, we're going to provide mango juice for everyone at no cost to them. Okay? We're going to find new money to pay for it. That's great. Where you find the money is sort of secondary, okay? But you just say, government's going to pay for it, okay? Nobody's going to argue. Who's going to argue? With now, you get mango juice that you didn't have before, and it doesn't cost you anything, and nobody pays for it, and ultimately the government pays for it, the taxpayers pay for it. Versus regulatory. So now we're going to change it, and the government is going to say there's a new policy, everyone with high blood pressure has to have mango juice. New regulation.
How can you enforce that? You can't go into people's homes.
Right, and you can't enforce it and you're not paying for it. Okay, right, so the first way,
Oh, so you would force them to pay for it?
yeah, you just say it's not our problem. It's just that everyone is now welcome to have, so the second process, the regulatory would be, it would say everyone with high blood pressure must have it, but there's no source of money for it.
Oh, okay.
So you can buy it.
You can go buy it, okay? Right, and then what the government will probably do is it'll try to make it available, help facilitate the process of it being delivered.
But then is this something that they'll try and get insurance companies to pay for? Is it something
Sure.
kind of like a drug? Like if
Yes.
okay.
Right, so the government could well serve to use its power to influence somebody else to pay for it, okay? Versus the third, which is the most politically dangerous, which is redistributive. Take money from an existing program and use it for this. So now we're going to say, okay, we're going to eliminate the PEPFAR program from the U.S. budget. Or, even more meaningful, we're going to eliminate the program for coal miners. There's a whole separate, in the United States, a whole separate healthcare system for coal miners. Or, let me take a better example, veterans. We're going to take the money out of the veterans budget and we're going to pay for mango juice. Why is that difficult?
Because there are people who are benefiting from that.
Exactly, and they're going to fight it, right? They're going to fight it. So if you are dealing with a situation where the money is fixed, a so-called zero-sum game, where there's no more money and you have to come up with money from something else, that's a lot of political danger. Very troublesome.
I'm thinking not that one.
Right, so you have to be, but, does that third one used?
It is true.
Sure,
It's used all the time.
all the time.
I think that's the one the most common.
It is the most common, but
Well,
it's
so
not
in the
common.
United States, right, in the United States, the liberals want more social programs and the conservatives want more military programs, right? And the budget is only so much money. Okay, now, so what happens is they say, fine, we'll make the budget bigger, but no, the conservatives don't want to make the budget bigger. So this is a very common fight that occurs, okay? If it's a small enough cost, then you can get away with the first one, the distributor. Say, sure,
That's what I
We'll
was
pay
gonna
for
ask, like, how much money is this going to cost the government? 'Cause that's how we.
to me, this is going to be expensive because
Important.
because
And it's
everybody
from
would.
Greenland.
Greenland.
And it's from Greenland.
Greenland, it's a good deal, okay, right?
And many people will want it from other countries,
Of
not
course.
only from your country.
Of course, of course, everywhere. Okay. All right, now, is this new policy incremental or comprehensive? So what does that mean? It's pretty self-evident, but somebody explain to me. What Mesa explained to me, explain to us.
I don't
No?
know how to explain that to you.
Okay, who wants to?
Incremental, you do it bit by, you start it gradually. You might decide that we will start with people more than 50 years who have high blood
Rationing.
pressure.
Right,
Then later on, you add some more people. You look for a means to do it gradually, but not everyone.
right, okay? So an incremental process is a slower process, okay? And what's the advantage of an incremental process?
Money, you're not spending.
Doesn't cost you as much.
Yeah, it does not cost you.
It doesn't cost as much, okay? It may be, it can be politically very effective. So if you look in the United States at what the Republicans have been proposing to do, everything is not going to start until after the next election. Why? Because for the people who are going to be negatively affected, they won't feel the pain until after the election. For the people who are going to vote for them, they're going to be very happy about it. That's an incremental approach, in a way.
But
Okay?
also that could be problematic because others are gonna be like, well, how come we didn't get chosen to
Yes.
get the mango juice?
That's
So
correct.
you have that aspect as
Right,
well.
so if this comes out as an incremental program and your great aunt has a stroke because she didn't have mango juice, you're gonna call up your congressman and you're gonna say, why didn't you do that immediately? Why are we having to wait 3 years? Okay?
I think it's actually one of the consequences of rationing. Like when you're rationing, because you've got limited resources and like Isabella said, you've got to choose a certain segment of society. And the other society says, well, why didn't you choose me? What makes them special?
Right, yeah. Okay, now, so as we're going through this, okay, well, let's finish this page and then I'll make my comment. Okay, so what will it cost? A lot or not much? Obviously, that makes a big difference. If it doesn't cost much, fine. If it costs a lot, that's a problem. Okay, all right, now, if you're creating a health policy position, you work for Gates Foundation, okay? You have to come up with all of these situations. You're going to recommend to the Gates Foundation what approach should be taken. Should we go through a regulatory process? Should it be, what should we propose? Should it be distributive or regulatory or redistributive? Should we do it right away or should it be comprehensive? It's going to cost a lot, it's not going to cost a lot. This is how policy is created. Okay, these are the steps. Right?
What is comprehensive?
Comprehensive means total. Total, complete. Yeah? You know the word comprehensive? Entire.
So in case of now, we want to just do it for everyone.
Everybody right now. Okay, that would be comprehensive for the mayor. Okay? All right, now let's go on. Who will pay for it? Right? So in any policy issue, you have to have an answer to this question. Who's going to pay for it? And as you're creating your policy position for the organization you work with, that's obviously an answer. Again, there isn't a right or wrong. You just have to decide if you say everyone is gonna pay for it, then those young people are gonna resist it. They're not gonna want to pay for my mango juice, okay? On the other hand, let's say you only say old people with high blood pressure have to pay for it. What's the problem?
They're not working, they're
Can't afford it.
retired.
Yeah, they can't afford it. Okay, so the more you can spread it throughout the population, the less expensive it is. So what's a liberal gonna say and what's a conservative gonna say with this?
The conservative, the liberals, they will not want to pay for the one, the government to pay for it.
The liberals will want the
No.
government to pay for it. Liberals are gonna say everyone should pay for it.
Yes.
The conservatives are going to say
Only selected.
only selected groups. Okay?
Typically, with the conservatives, only those that can afford it.
Yeah,
You got the money, then you can.
right. And if you don't have the money, it's your problem.
It's your
Right? Okay, so now, we've already more or less talked about this. Who cares? So as you're doing this, stakeholders, you're gonna do a stakeholder analysis, we've really already said this, who cares? And you're gonna have those stakeholders who support it and those stakeholders who oppose it, right? Okay? And it only stands to reason, okay? Now, so let's say you're in favor of it. Let's look at that bottom bullet there. Who is the policy entrepreneur or the champion? Why is that in there? So the group who are in favor, this is the group that's in favor. They've come together, they're going to start supporting this. What's a policy entrepreneur?
Wouldn't it be the person who, not the people that found the mango, but the people that are pushing for the policy to be made, and are the ones that end up making policy?
Right. So here's European Cardiology Society, here's WHO, here's Gates, okay? And you have your meeting, and you sit down and you say, who's going to take this? And NASA says, well, I work for Gates, and Bill and Melinda are really interested in this, and I am too. And so everybody else sits down and says, okay, Mesa, you're it. Why do we need that? Why do we need a policy entrepreneur?
Kind of like a single person to bring
Push
them
it.
together.
Yeah, you need a champion.
Mhm.
Okay, if you go back to my one-day session on Everett Rogers in the diffusion of innovations, okay, the guy whose father was a Iowa corn farmer. Okay, we're talking about Iowa. Okay,
Yes.
corn farmer in Iowa, and Everett Rogers studied this whole process of inducing change. You have to have a champion. Why? It's fairly obvious. You need somebody to organize this, somebody to lead the effort, okay? And if you've got multiple stakeholders, one of the stakeholders should probably take charge, and then they need to create a person, a team, an organizational structure to do it, okay? And they coordinate everything. If you don't do that, you're not gonna go anywhere, okay? So Weiser call it a policy entrepreneur, and I'm calling it a champion, okay? Okay, let's go back and look at who's against this. So, pharma, why would pharma be opposed to it?
Because they sell drugs.
They sell drugs.
Okay.
Okay, take away from their business, okay? Right? Fruit growers?
Who don't grow, they don't get to make the money that the mangoes.
Yeah, I'm not gonna have a banana, now I'm gonna have a mango,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is there a fruit growers lobby?
I don't know.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course there is. Of course there is. Everybody has a lobby. Everybody has a lobby, sure. And what are the fruit growers gonna do?
Try to find good things in strawberry or
Yeah, they're gonna do all sorts of, they're gonna oppose this.
They're gonna
okay?
start studying their own fruit and
Yeah.
vegetables to see
Yeah, that's what Karen is saying,
what
right?
they're
So they're
not.
gonna try to find it in strawberries, they're gonna see if they can grow it in mangoes, their own mangoes, but they're also gonna resist this.
or they can
Okay.
limit their price or get
Yeah,
higher.
so in the United States, This is a well-funded organization. It's called the SALT Institute. So let's talk about salt and public health for a minute. What's the association?
High blood pressure.
Salt produces high blood pressure. It can be dangerous for the kidneys. Okay, if you reduce, and is the salt content in the Western diet high or low? High. If you reduce the salt in food, what would it do to the health of the population?
Better.
Better.
Yeah.
A lot. You could reduce high blood pressure by a lot if you took the salt out of food, right? So why don't we take the salt out of food?
Because it's so yummy.
No, because they invent like new things that without carbon or without.
It creates an economy.
Huh?
It creates an economy. So
Food.
disease, or for farmer, it creates business.
So it creates business for pharma.
But you have to have also salt in a lot of
Where
food products
Where does salt come from?
from the sea.
From the sea.
It comes from the sea. It comes from mines.
Mhm.
But when you want to put salt on your pizza, you don't go to the sea and boil down the water. What do? You buy it from who? And where do they get it from?
From a company.
Hmm?
From a company.
The salt companies. And the salt companies have come together to produce an organization called the Salt Institute. And they have a lot of money. And who do they talk to? They talk to the government. And they say to the government, this is true in the United States, I'm sure it's true in Western Europe, probably in Israel too. They say to the government, what? What do they say?
You can't take salt out of food.
You can't take salt out of food. Even more so, they say it's a person's right to decide how much salt they want in their food. It's not the government's responsibility to take it away from them.
Yeah.
And that salt also has iodine. That people
Yes, it's
need.
good for your thyroid, right? So you should eat a lot of salt because it's good for your thyroid. Okay? This organization really exists. You look it up in the U.S. It's very
But
real.
now
And
they
they
have regulated that say you have to say on the product how many salt you
Yes.
have
right. So they resisted this, but
for long years.
but in any event, this is an active health policy issue in the United States. I'm sure it's true in Israel too. Okay? Right? So there are stakeholders that are opposed and stakeholders who are supportive of anything. Right? Okay. All right. Now, we're not going to do this. Okay? It's a cute idea. If we had time, we would, but we're not. Okay? So what I was going to have us do is a role play,
Okay.
but let's just talk through it for 5 minutes, okay, and then we'll stop, right? So what I'm proposing is that in the role play, we're going to convene a committee meeting of the Knesset. What's the Knesset? The Parliament. Parliament in Israel. So in the U.S., what would you call it? Congress. Okay? In Canada, Parliament. Okay? So we're going to have a committee hearing. So what happens at a committee hearing? Who sits at the head table? It would be legislators. It could be the prime minister. It's usually
Justin Trudeau himself care.
Really? No, because, typically at committee meetings, it's like a regular parliamentarian, but becomes the chairman of the committee.
right. It would be
Who reports to the secretary.
right. So it would typically be members of parliament, okay?
Yeah.
Right? Or members of Congress, or members of the Knesset, right? So they're the health committee, or they're the commerce committee, or they're the, I don't know, whatever it is. We'll say the health committee, right? So we're going to have 10 people sitting up front. And what are they doing in a hearing? And this goes back to some degree what Kingdom was talking about. What are they going to do? They've heard this. Their voters have called them and said, we want mango juice. So as a legislator, they say, okay, we're going to hold a hearing. So what's the hearing for?
In favor and
Well-
in the benefits and what can be the outcomes of being.
I think it's more of like a discussion of ultimately is it in favor or is it against?
Yeah, but there is also opposite in the
Yeah,
government
yes.
that will be.
Okay,
No,
so let's just develop this. So we've got these 10 people sitting there. They're elected officials.
And maybe, I don't know how many members they have, but maybe 20 or 100 again.
So yeah, let's say there are, 200 members of the parliament, and so a committee is maybe 10 people, okay? And they're somehow representative, okay?
I have to catch my bus, I'm really sorry.
That's fine?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're all shut off.
Okay.
Take a look. Goodbye.
But I'll email you.
Yeah.
If we
Fine.
continue
Yeah.
properly.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, bye everyone.
Right, so we got these 10 people, they're a committee, their interest is in finding out what the issues are. Okay? Now, they have the power, they're legislators, they have the power to propose new laws. So they have to decide, they are going to decide whether new laws should be written, or they may, in their process, make recommendations to the regulatory part of government to say, we don't need a new law, we should just tell our Food and Drug Administration that they should do this, okay? But their general intent is to consider writing a law, okay? Now, when they hold these hearings, the vast majority of the time, they already know what they want to do, okay? Because they have already been lobbied before the meetings are held. If it's a public hearing, then it's kind of a show, because the newspapers are there, the TV is there, the C-SPAN is there, okay? So they're holding a hearing. Who is coming to speak to them? Who comes to speak to them? Interest groups, stakeholders, the interest groups, right? So they're going to call on all 6 of these constituents more, okay? And what you're going to do, what Mesa's going to do, is she's going to try to tell them, don't even ask these people to come. Don't invite the Salt Institute to come and tell us about the salt in the diet. And there would be all of these politics and lobbying that goes on before the committee is even convened, okay? And there's a very good probability they're going to know what they want to do beforehand. But you don't know for sure. And one of the things that happens is they hold their committee hearing, the press covers it. So this now goes back to the public, and the parliament leaders are listening to what happens after these hearings. And if the public listens to this and says, we want mango juice, they're going to do one thing. If the public doesn't care after all these hearings, they're going to say, okay, fine, yeah, we'll do something, but we're not going to make it a priority, right? So again, this is how democracies really work. And this is how the health policy process works in a kind of a simple example, okay? All right, so.
Question here, please. Just to understand, maybe I missed out something. The 10 elected officials who come in to see, other people come to speak to them. I thought they were just the 10 people to talk within themselves.
No.
It depends of the rule of, I'm sorry, if it's an open or closed discussion.
Right, so what will happen, let me go back. That committee will meet privately
Okay.
before they hold their hearings,
Okay.
and then they'll hold their hearings, and then they'll meet privately again,
It's okay.
okay? And then they'll decide, do they approve, reject, or defer,
Okay. Okay.
okay?
Yeah. I'm
Right,
okay.
what are they gonna do,
Yeah.
okay? And then, so let's say they approve, they reject, or defer, whatever it is. What happens after that?
Take a lot of time with the bureaucracy to really come until the juice is in the store and I can buy it.
Right, so there will be a continued debate on all of this. So let's say they decide to approve it, the stakeholders who oppose it are going to oppose it, they're going to
I
want
need
to
a
reject it.
company to make it and to.
Right. So there are all sorts of additional steps, that's correct, okay? And ultimately, there will always be stakeholders who support and stakeholders who oppose. And so, Mesa probably has good job security.
Yeah, but if
Okay.
I'm opposed, I will make after 10 years and I
Right.
will pull, and if it's done or not done, and if
Right.
it's really works.
Yes, okay? And the Salt Institute has been there for a very long time. it's lasted much longer than the people who work there, okay? Because there are stakeholders, stakeholder organizations that represent constituents.